I sat in my car outside my parents' house on Sunday evening, watching through the dining room window as my ex-wife Laura and my younger brother Derek laughed together at the family dinner table with my parents. It had been 3 months since I discovered their affair, 3 months since my divorce was finalized, and my parents still invited both of them to Sunday dinner. When I confronted my mother earlier that day, she said those words that made my blood run cold. "We don't take sides, Raul. Family is family." I started my engine and drove away. I drove to my small rental apartment across town, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. The streetlights blurred past as I tried to process what I had just witnessed. How had my life spiraled into this nightmare? Just a year ago, everything had been different. I had been married to Laura for 5 years. We met in college, both of us studying at the state university. She was in the dental hygiene program, and I was working toward my engineering degree. We fell in love quickly, got married young at 23, right after graduation. Everyone said we were rushing, but we thought we knew better. We thought we had found forever. I worked as a mechanical engineer at a manufacturing plant on the edge of town. The job paid well, $78,000 a year, and I was proud of it. I worked hard, sometimes pulling extra shifts when projects ran behind schedule. Laura worked as a dental hygienist at a clinic downtown, making around $40,000 annually. Together, we had a comfortable life. Not rich, but stable. Safe. 2 years into our marriage, we bought a house in the suburbs. It was a modest 3-bedroom colonial with a small yard, but it was ours. Well, mostly ours. We needed help with the down payment, and my parents stepped in. They co-signed the mortgage, vouched for us with the bank, made it possible for us to become homeowners at 25 years old. I was grateful. I thought they believed in us, in our future. My younger brother Derek was 28 now, 4 years younger than me. Growing up, he had always been the one who got away with everything. While I studied and worked part-time jobs through high school and college, Derek coasted. He was charming, funny, good-looking. Teachers loved him. Girls loved him. My parents adored him. He could do no wrong in their eyes. After high school, Derek bounced from one thing to another. Community college for a semester. Then he dropped out. A job at a restaurant, quit after 3 months. A job at a retail store, fired for showing up late. He talked about starting a photography business, bought expensive camera equipment with money borrowed from our parents, took a few pictures, then gave up. For the past 2 years, he had been living in our parents' basement, claiming he was finding himself, working on his art, planning his next move. I tried not to judge him. Everyone moves at their own pace, right? But deep down, it bothered me. I had worked so hard for everything I had, and Derek just seemed to glide through life on charm and excuses. 9 months ago, I came home early from work. I had the flu, felt terrible, could barely stand. My supervisor sent me home at noon. When I pulled into my driveway, I saw Derek's beat-up Honda Civic parked on the street. It was 2 in the afternoon on a Wednesday. What was he doing there? I walked in through the front door, calling out. Laura appeared from the kitchen, looking flustered. Her face was red, her hair messy. She said Derek had stopped by to help her move some furniture in the spare bedroom. I looked at her, confused. We had no plans to move furniture. She stammered something about wanting to rearrange things, surprised me. Derek came downstairs then, also looking uncomfortable, said he had to go, left quickly. Something felt wrong. My gut told me something was off, but I was sick, exhausted, and I wanted to trust my wife. So I swallowed my suspicions and went to bed. Over the next 2 months, I noticed things. Small things that added up. Laura's phone was always face down on the table. She changed her passwords, said she wanted better security. She started going to the gym more often, late in the evenings, sometimes not coming home until 9 or 10 at night. Derek started visiting our house more frequently, always when I was at work. He would text me asking what time I would be home, claiming he wanted to borrow tools or pick up something he had left there. Our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, an older woman who lived across the street and kept an eye on everything, mentioned to me one Saturday morning that she had seen Derek's car at our house a lot during the week. She said it kindly, but there was concern in her eyes. I brushed it off, told her Derek was helping Laura with projects around the house. But the suspicion ate at me. I hated feeling like this, hated doubting Laura, but I could not shake it. 6 months ago, I made a decision. I bought a small security camera, one of those modern ones you can check from your phone. I told Laura I was installing it in the living room for package theft prevention. Our neighborhood had some issues with stolen deliveries, so it seemed reasonable. She did not object. 3 days later, I was at work when something made me check the camera feed on my phone. It was 1 in the afternoon. I opened the app, saw the live view of our living room, and there they were. Derek and Laura, on my couch, in my house, kissing, his hands on her hands on him. I watched for maybe 10 seconds before I dropped my phone on my desk, my vision going blurry. I left work immediately. Did not tell anyone, just walked out, got in my car, drove home. My heart pounded the entire drive. Part of me hoped I was wrong, hoped the camera had malfunctioned, hoped there was some explanation. I burst through the front door. They were still there, but now they were sitting apart, pretending nothing had happened. But I could see it in their faces, the guilt, the panic. I did not yell. I spoke quietly, which somehow felt worse. I told Derek to get out of my house. He stood up, and then he did something I will never forget. He laughed, not nervously, but genuinely amused. He said, "Come on, man. You're never home anyway, always working those extra shifts. What did you expect?" Laura started crying, begging me to listen, to understand. Then she got angry. She said I was emotionally unavailable, that I cared more about work than her, that she had been lonely. I told them both to leave. Derek left first, still smirking. Laura tried to stay, tried to talk, but I could not look at her. I asked her to pack a bag and go. She went to her mother's house that night. I sat alone in my living room, staring at the walls, trying to understand how my life had just imploded. That same night, I drove to my parents' house. It was late, almost 11, but I needed them. I needed my family. My father Frank opened the door, surprised to see me. My mother Susan came to the door too. I told them everything. I cried, actually cried in front of them for the first time since I was a child. They listened quietly. When I finished, there was a long silence. Then my mother spoke. She said, "These things happen in marriages, Raul. Maybe you two can work it out. Counseling might help." I stared at her, unable to believe what I was hearing. My father added, "Derek made a mistake, but he's young. He needs guidance, not judgment. He's still your brother." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. I looked at them, my parents, the people who were supposed to protect me, support me, and they were defending Derek, making excuses, minimizing what he had done. I left their house that night, feeling more alone than I had ever felt in my life. The next morning, I contacted a divorce attorney. I filed the paperwork that week. Laura did not contest the divorce, but she wanted her share of everything. The house, the savings, everything we had built together. The divorce process was quick but brutal. I had the security camera footage, which gave me leverage. Laura's attorney advised her to settle. We came to an agreement. She would get our savings account, which had $23,000. I would keep the house, but I had to refinance the mortgage in my name only. That meant removing my parents as co-signers and taking on the full financial responsibility alone. The bank approved the refinance. My credit was good, my income solid, but the mortgage payment was now entirely on me. $2,400 a month, plus property taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance. It was manageable, but there was no room for error. The divorce was finalized 3 months ago. I threw myself into work, tried to move forward, tried to heal. And then, 2 weeks after the divorce was official, my mother called. She asked me to come to Sunday dinner. I refused. I told her I was not ready, that I needed space. She got angry. Her voice rose, and she said something that cut deep. "After everything we've done for you, co-signing that mortgage, and you can't even come to one dinner?" Then she said the words that made everything clear. "Derek and Laura are getting serious. She might be your sister-in-law again someday. We need to keep the family together." I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, unable to speak. The truth hit me like a truck. My parents were not staying neutral. They were not trying to keep peace. They were actively choosing Derek's side. They were facilitating his relationship with my ex-wife. They wanted me to accept it, to come to dinner, to smile and pretend everything was fine, because in their minds, Derek deserved happiness. Laura was a nice girl who made a mistake, and I was supposed to get over it. I hung up the phone without another word. Over the next 2 months, I buried myself in work. I picked up every extra shift available, volunteered for overtime projects, worked weekends when needed. The mortgage payment was manageable with my base salary, but with all the other expenses Laura used to help cover, car payment of $380 a month, utilities that ran about $250 in summer and $400 in winter, groceries, gas, insurance. I was stretched thin. I was making it work, but barely. I had no savings left after the divorce settlement. Every paycheck went to bills. I stopped going out with friends. I stopped doing anything that cost money. My life became work, home, sleep, repeat. My parents kept trying to contact me. Phone calls I did not answer. Text messages I deleted without reading. Voicemails I could not bring myself to listen to. Finally, curiosity got the better of me, and I played one of my father's messages. His voice came through the speaker, calm and measured. "Raul, your mother is heartbroken that you won't visit. Derek feels terrible about everything. Laura feels terrible. When are you going to forgive and move on? Life is too short to hold grudges. Call us back." I blocked their numbers after that message. I could not take it anymore. The pressure to forgive, to forget, to pretend that what happened was just a minor mistake. It was suffocating me. The only family member who truly understood was my cousin Beth. She was my mother's niece, 30 years old, married with 2 kids. We had always been close growing up. When everything fell apart, she called me regularly to check in, brought me dinners a few times, listened when I needed to talk. She was furious with my parents, told me what they were doing was wrong, that she could not believe how they were treating me. One Sunday evening, about 2 months after the divorce, Beth called me. Her voice was shaking with anger. "Raul, you need to know what's happening," she said. I sat down on my couch, bracing myself. "What is it?" "I was just at your parents' house for Sunday dinner. They invited me, and I thought maybe it would be good to see your mom and dad, try to talk some sense into them." And Derek and Laura were there, together, holding hands at the dinner table. Your mom introduced Laura to another cousin who doesn't know the whole story. She introduced her as Derek's girlfriend. Like you and Laura were never married. Like none of it ever happened. I closed my eyes feeling sick. "Beth, I appreciate you telling me, but I already figured they were doing something like that." "Raul, that's not all. This isn't the first time." I asked around quietly. "Your aunt was there last week. So was your uncle. This has been happening every Sunday for 2 months now. Your parents are hosting Derek and Laura together, treating them like a normal couple. They're normalizing this whole thing." I felt my jaw clench. Are people saying anything? Is anyone calling them out? Some people are uncomfortable, I can tell. But most of them don't know the full story. Your parents are telling everyone that you and Laura divorced amicably, that you two just grew apart, and that Derek and Laura fell in love afterward. They're rewriting history. I leaned back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. Of course they are. There's more, Beth said quietly. Your mom announced something tonight at dinner. Derek and Laura are moving in together. Moving in where? Into your parents' house. Your mom and dad are giving them the entire finished basement, rent-free. They said they want to help Derek and Laura start their new life together. I could not speak for a moment. The basement apartment was nice. My parents had renovated it years ago. Full bathroom, kitchenette, separate entrance. It could easily rent for $800 or $900 a month. And they were giving it to Derek and Laura for free. Raul? Beth's voice pulled me back. Are you still there? Yeah, I'm here. I'm so sorry. I know this is hard to hear. But I thought you should know what's happening. Thank you for telling me, I said quietly. I mean it. There's one more thing. Beth hesitated. I overheard your parents talking in the kitchen. They were talking about maybe co-signing a car loan for Derek. He quit another job 2 weeks ago, and apparently, he needs reliable transportation. I almost laughed. It was so absurd, so typical. Derek quit jobs like other people changed clothes, and my parents kept enabling him, kept rescuing him, kept making excuses. Meanwhile, I was working 60-hour weeks, struggling to keep my house, eating ramen noodles for dinner half the time, and they wanted me to come to Sunday dinner and smile, while they celebrated Derek's relationship with my ex-wife. After I hung up with Beth, I sat in the dark living room for a long time. My parents, who had always preached about responsibility and hard work when I was growing up, were now rewarding the two people who destroyed my marriage. They were giving Derek and Laura free housing, free support, unconditional acceptance, and I had nothing from them except judgment and pressure to forgive. The next few weeks were a blur of work and exhaustion. I stopped thinking about my family. I focused on surviving, paying bills, keeping my head above water, but it was getting harder. The isolation was wearing on me. I had pulled away from most of my friends because I could not afford to go out, and I was too ashamed to explain why. The few friends who knew what happened had their own lives, their own families. I did not want to burden them. One night, I was looking at my bank account on my phone, calculating how much I could put toward the mortgage, when I noticed something strange. My credit card had a pending charge I did not recognize. It was only $15, some online service I had never heard of. I called the credit card company, disputed the charge. They investigated and told me someone had used my card number to sign up for a subscription service. It was fraud, but minor. They reversed the charge and sent me a new card, but it made me paranoid. How did someone get my card number? I changed all my online passwords, checked my credit report, found nothing else suspicious. 2 days later, Beth called again. She sounded nervous. Raul, I went to another Sunday dinner. I know, but I wanted to keep an eye on things for you. What happened? I heard Derek and your dad talking in the garage. They didn't know I was outside near the window. Derek was saying something about how, if you're struggling with money, maybe you'd be more willing to negotiate. Your dad said something about you needing to see reason, and that once you agree to help them financially, they can drop some lawsuit, and everything will go back to normal. My blood ran cold. Lawsuit? What lawsuit? I don't know. That's all I heard before they came back inside. But Raul, it sounded like they're planning something. I thanked Beth and hung up. My mind raced. What lawsuit? What were they talking about? I found out 3 days later when a certified letter arrived at my house. It was from an attorney representing my parents. I opened it with shaking hands and read the contents. The letter stated that, when my parents co-signed my original mortgage 3 years ago, there had been a verbal family agreement that I would help support them financially in their retirement. The lawsuit was demanding $500 per month, retroactive for 6 months, which meant $3,000 owed immediately, plus ongoing monthly payments. I read it twice, 3 times, unable to process what I was seeing. There had been no agreement. This was completely fabricated. When my parents co-signed the mortgage, we had discussed it briefly. They said they were happy to help me and Laura get started. There was never any mention of me paying them back or supporting them later. But the letter was official, from a real law firm. It threatened that if I did not settle out of court, they would pursue legal action, and it would become public and expensive. I realized what this was. This was Derek's idea. It had to be. He had convinced my parents that I owed them, that this was a way to force me back into the family, force me to accept the situation with him and Laura. The letter also mentioned that my parents were planning to retire fully within the next year. My father was 63, my mother 61. They wanted my financial support as they transitioned to living on Social Security and their modest savings. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the letter, feeling the walls close in. They were coming after me legally. They were trying to force my hand, to make me choose between financial ruin and submission. I had to fight back, but I had no idea how. The next morning, I took a personal day from work and went to see an attorney. I found a family law specialist named Gary Hopkins, who offered free initial consultations. His office was small but professional, in a brick building downtown. Gary was in his 50s, balding, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. I showed him the lawsuit letter. He read it carefully, then looked up at me. "This is frivolous," he said bluntly. "There's no written agreement. Verbal family promises about future financial support are not legally binding in this context. They have no case." Relief washed over me. So I can just ignore it? Not exactly. Ignoring a lawsuit is never a good idea. But here's the problem. Fighting this will cost you money. I'd estimate at least $5,000 in legal fees. Maybe more if it drags out. They're banking on you not being able to afford to fight it. So you'll settle out of court and agree to pay them something. $5,000. I did not have $5,000. I barely had $500 in my checking account after paying this month's bills. "What if I represent myself?" I asked. Gary shook his head. "I wouldn't recommend it. Family court can be unpredictable. Judges sometimes have sympathy for elderly parents, especially if they can paint you as an ungrateful son who's abandoning them. You need representation." "I can't afford it," I said quietly. Gary was silent for a moment. "Let me think about this. Can I keep a copy of this letter? I want to look into the law firm that sent it. Sometimes these situations can be resolved without going to court, if we approach it right." I agreed and left his office feeling both relieved and terrified. The lawsuit was baseless, but it was still going to cost me money and stress I could not afford. Over the next week, things got worse. My parents escalated their campaign. They called my employer, claiming they were worried about me, asking if there were employee assistance programs I could access because I was going through financial distress. My supervisor, Tom Bradley, pulled me into his office, looking concerned. Tom was a good guy, in his 40s, fair and reasonable. "Raul, I got a strange call from someone claiming to be your mother. She said you were struggling financially and emotionally. She wanted to know if we had resources to help you. Are you okay?" I was humiliated. "Tom, I'm fine. I'm going through some family issues, but it has nothing to do with work. I apologize for them contacting you. It won't happen again. Look, I'm not judging. If you need time off or if there's something we can do to help, just let me know. But I have to ask, is your work performance going to be affected?" "No, absolutely not. I'm committed to my job. This is personal, and I'm handling it." Tom nodded. "Okay, just keep me in the loop if anything changes." I left his office feeling angry and violated. My parents were now trying to sabotage my career, trying to make me look unstable or unreliable. The stress was taking a toll. I was not sleeping well. I was snapping at coworkers over small things. I was making mistakes, forgetting details. One evening, I sat down to pay bills and realized I had miscalculated my budget for the month. Between the $300 fee for Gary's initial consultation, an unexpected car repair that cost $800 when my alternator died, and higher than usual utility bills because of a cold snap in November, I was $200 short on my mortgage payment. Panic set in. I called the mortgage company, explained I would be a few days late, asked for a grace period. The customer service representative was polite but firm. I had 10 days before the late fee kicked in. After that, it would be reported to the credit bureaus. I picked up every extra shift I could find at work. I sold some old tools and electronics I did not need. But it was not enough. I missed the mortgage payment deadline by 3 days. The bank charged me a late fee of $150 and sent a warning letter. One missed payment would not lead to foreclosure, but it was the start of a dangerous path. My credit score dropped 30 points overnight. I sat on my couch that night, holding the warning letter, feeling like I was drowning. Then my phone rang. It was the mortgage bank's customer service department. "Mr. Torres, this is Lisa from First National. I'm calling because there was some suspicious activity on your account today. Someone called pretending to be you, asking detailed questions about your payment history, your remaining balance, and the equity in your home." My heart stopped. "I didn't make that call. We know. Our security team flagged it because some of the information the caller provided didn't match what we have on file. We wanted to alert you. Has your identity been compromised?" "I don't know. What information did they have?" "They knew your social security number, your date of birth, and your mother's maiden name. That's why we initially thought it might be you. But when they couldn't verify your account security questions, we ended the call. My social security number, my birth date, my mother's maiden name. My family had all that information." "Thank you for catching that," I said. "I'll file a police report." I called the non-emergency police line, explained what happened. An officer came to my house, took a report, but said without proof of actual fraud or financial loss, there was little they could do. Someone asking questions about an account was not technically a crime, but I knew who it was: Derek. Or maybe my father, acting on Derek's instructions. 3 days later, Beth called again. "Raul, I was at Sunday dinner again. I know I keep going, but I feel like I need to keep you informed." "What now?" "I heard Derek and your dad talking in the garage again. They didn't see me. I was around the corner. Derek said something like, if he's struggling this much with one late payment, imagine what happens if he misses 2 or 3. The bank will start foreclosure proceedings. Then, maybe he'll be willing to negotiate." My hands clenched into fists. What did my dad say? He said, "We just need him to see reason. Once he agrees to help us financially, we can drop the lawsuit, and everything goes back to normal." I felt rage building in my chest. They were not just suing me. They were actively trying to sabotage my finances, trying to push me into foreclosure, trying to force me into submission. "Beth, thank you. I know this is hard for you, being in the middle of this. I'm not in the middle. I'm on your side. What they're doing is sick." After I hung up, I sat in the dark, trying to think clearly. I needed to act. I needed to protect myself, but I felt trapped, surrounded by people who were supposed to love me, but were instead trying to destroy me. I called Gary Hopkins the next morning. I told him everything, the phone call to the bank, what Beth had overheard. Gary listened carefully. "Raul, this changes things. If we can prove they're actively sabotaging your finances, we can turn this around. But we need evidence. Right now, it's all hearsay." "What do I do?" "First, put fraud alerts on your credit reports. Change all your passwords. Document everything. Every contact they make. Every incident. Write it down with dates and times. And consider getting a restraining order if the harassment continues." I followed his advice. I spent the next few days securing everything I could. New passwords for all my accounts. Fraud alerts with all 3 credit bureaus. I installed security cameras around my house, in case Derek tried to show up. But the damage was already done. My family was weaponizing everything they knew about me, using it to try to force me into compliance. And the worst part was, I did not know how far they would go. The harassment continued over the next month. My parents started a whisper campaign through the extended family. I found out from Beth that they were telling everyone I was the problem. I was the ungrateful son who abandoned his family over a misunderstanding. I was bitter and vindictive, refusing to help my aging parents when they needed me. Several family members stopped talking to me. My uncle, my father's brother, sent me an email calling me selfish and cruel. He said my parents had always been good to me, and now that they needed support, I was turning my back on them. The email was filled with accusations and disappointment. I did not respond. What could I say? The people who believed my parents' version of events were not interested in the truth. My grandmother, my mother's mother, was 84 years old and lived in a nursing home. She called me one afternoon, her voice weak and trembling. "Raul, sweetheart, what's going on? Your mother is so upset. She says you won't talk to her. Please, I don't have much time left. I want to see my family together before I go. Can you make peace with your parents?" Hearing my grandmother cry broke something inside me. She was kind, gentle, had always loved me, but she did not know the full story. My parents had fed her their sanitized version of events. "Grandma, I love you, but this situation is complicated. I can't explain everything right now, but I promise you, I'm not the one who broke this family apart. Family is everything, Raul. Don't let pride keep you from the people who love you." After I hung up, I sat with my head in my hands. The isolation was crushing. I felt like I was fighting a battle on every front, and I was losing. Then things got worse at work. Someone created fake social media accounts using my name and photos. The posts were disturbing, rambling messages about feeling unstable and going through a breakdown. The language was just similar enough to how I wrote that it looked real. Someone anonymously sent screenshots of these posts to my supervisor. Tom called me into his office, looking serious. "Raul, I need you to look at something." He showed me printouts of the posts. I felt my face go pale. "Tom, these are fake. I didn't write these. Someone is impersonating me." "I believe you," Tom said carefully. "But HR flagged them. They're concerned about workplace safety. I need you to understand, if this continues, if there's any indication that you're going through some kind of crisis, they might require you to take a leave of absence." "A leave? I can't afford that. I need this job." "I know. That's why I'm telling you this now. You need to resolve whatever is happening outside of work. File a police report, contact a lawyer, do what you need to do. But you can't let this spill into the workplace again." I assured him I would handle it. I filed another police report about the fake social media accounts, but the officer said unless I could prove who created them, there was little they could do. I reported the accounts to the social media platforms, got them taken down, but the damage was done. I knew Derek was behind it. He was tech-savvy enough to create fake accounts and make them look convincing. This was his style, underhanded and cowardly. That evening, as I sat in my house trying to figure out what to do next, my phone buzzed with an email notification. The sender was Laura. The subject line read, "We need to talk." I stared at the screen, my finger hovering over the delete button. Why would Laura be contacting me now? What could she possibly have to say? Curiosity won. I opened the email. "Raul, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, and I don't blame you. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need to tell you something important. I made terrible mistakes. The affair was wrong. What I did to you, to our marriage, was unforgivable. I've spent the past few months trying to understand how I became that person. Living with Derek and your parents has opened my eyes. Derek is not the person I thought he was. He's manipulative, lazy, and cruel. He used me to hurt you, and now he's using me to manipulate your parents. I'm leaving him. I'm moving out next week to go stay with my sister in another state. But before I go, I need to talk to you. There are things happening that you need to know about. Things Derek and your parents are planning. Please meet me for coffee. Just once. I'll tell you everything. If you don't want to see me, or hear from me ever again after that, I'll respect it. Laura." I read the email 3 times. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Laura had destroyed my life. Why would I trust anything she said now? But another part of me, the part that was desperate and drowning, thought maybe she had information I could use. Maybe she knew something about Derek's plans, something that could help me fight back. I called Gary Hopkins, asked his advice. He said, "If you meet her, do it in a public place, and record the conversation if it's legal in your state." I looked it up. My state was a one-party consent state for recordings. I could legally record a conversation I was part of, without telling the other person. I replied to Laura's email and agreed to meet her at a coffee shop downtown the next afternoon. When I walked into the coffee shop, Laura was already there, sitting at a corner table. She looked different, thinner, tired, older somehow. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. No makeup. She looked up when I entered, and I saw something in her eyes I had not seen in a long time. Genuine remorse. I sat down across from her, my phone in my jacket pocket, recording. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. "I'm not here to reconcile or forgive. I'm here because you said you have information I need." She nodded. "I understand, and you're right to feel that way." For the next hour, Laura told me everything. She explained how Derek had lied to her from the beginning. He told her I had been emotionally abusive during our marriage, that I had cheated on her first, that I was controlling and cold. She believed him because she wanted to believe someone else was to blame for her unhappiness. But living with him showed her the truth. Derek was lazy, spent most days playing video games or sleeping. He was mean, mocked her when she talked about getting a better job or going back to school. He borrowed money from his parents constantly, never paid it back. He used her to gain sympathy from his parents, played the victim, made himself look like the good son who was finally settling down. Then she told me the most important part. "Derek found out through your dad that your house has appreciated in value a lot. It's worth about $380,000 now, right?" I nodded slowly. Property values in our area had gone up significantly. You owe about $210,000 on the mortgage. That means you have $170,000 in equity. How do you know these numbers? I overheard Derek and your dad talking about it. Derek has a plan, Raul. He wants to force you into such financial trouble that you'll have to sell the house. He's hoping you'll be desperate enough to sell it quickly, maybe even below market value. Then he's going to convince your parents to buy it as an investment property. They'd use their retirement savings and take out a small mortgage. Then Derek and I would live in it, paying your parents minimal rent. I felt sick. That's insane. I know. When I found out, I told him I wanted no part of it. We got into a huge fight. That's when I realized I needed to get out. I can't be part of this anymore. Why are you telling me this now? Why help me? Laura looked down at her coffee cup. Because I destroyed your life once already, I can't stand by and watch Derek do it again. And because I owe you at least this much. I can't undo what I did, but maybe I can stop what's about to happen. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. I've been taking photos of text messages and emails between Derek and your dad, screenshots of their conversations, notes Derek wrote about his plan. It's all in here. She slid the folder across the table to me. I opened it, saw pages of printed screenshots, text messages discussing how to trigger foreclosure on my house, emails about researching how long foreclosure takes in our state, Derek's handwritten notes outlining his strategy step by step. It was evidence, real, concrete evidence of their plan. Laura, this could change everything. Why would you risk giving this to me? Derek and my parents will know it came from you. I don't care anymore. I'm leaving anyway, and maybe this is the only way I can begin to make up for what I did to you. I took the folder, feeling a glimmer of hope for the first time in months. Thank you. There's one more thing, Laura said. Derek has a key to your house. He made a copy years ago, when we were married, and he used to visit. I don't know if he still has it, but you should change your locks. My blood ran cold. Derek had access to my house. That night I called a locksmith and had every lock changed. Then I took the folder Laura had given me to Gary Hopkins first thing the next morning. Gary looked through the evidence carefully, his expression growing more serious with each page. This is gold, Raul. This proves intentional sabotage, conspiracy, fraud. We can use this. We can countersue and get a restraining order. What do we do? First, We prepare a counter lawsuit against your parents and Derek for harassment, defamation, and attempted fraud. But before we file, I recommend sending them a demand letter. Show them we have evidence. Give them one chance to drop everything. It might save you money and time if they back down. And if they don't back down, then we go to court and bury them. Gary drafted a detailed demand letter over the next few days. It included copies of all the evidence Laura had provided, the text messages between Derek and my father, discussing the plan to sabotage my mortgage, the emails researching foreclosure timelines, Derek's handwritten notes about forcing me to sell the house. The letter demanded 4 things: immediate withdrawal of the lawsuit against me, a written apology, an agreement to cease all contact and harassment, and $5,000 to compensate me for legal fees and damages. The letter concluded with a warning. If they refused, I would file a counter lawsuit, pursue criminal charges for identity fraud and harassment, and distribute all the evidence to the extended family, exposing Derek's manipulation to everyone. We sent the demand letter via certified mail to my parents and Derek separately. Then we waited. I expected them to back down. The evidence was damning. Any reasonable person would see they had been caught and would try to minimize the damage. But Derek was not reasonable. 3 days after the demand letters were delivered, I was at work when I received an alert on my phone from my home security system. Motion detected at the back door. I opened the app, watched the live feed. Derek was there, at my back door, trying to open it with a key. I felt adrenaline surge through me. I immediately called 911, then watched the feed as Derek realized the locks had been changed. He looked around, seemed to be deciding what to do next. Then he did something I did not expect. He picked up a rock from my garden and smashed the small window next to the door. He reached through, unlocked the door from the inside, and entered my house. I was still on the phone with the 911 dispatcher. My brother just broke into my house. I'm watching it happen right now, on my security camera. I'm at work, not home. Please send officers immediately. I gave them my address, stayed on the line, and drove toward my house as fast as I could without breaking every traffic law. The whole drive, I kept watching the security feed on my phone, mounted on my dashboard. Derek went straight to my home office. He rifled through papers on my desk, opened drawers, clearly looking for something. Then he saw my laptop on the desk. He picked it up, looked at it for a moment, then smashed it with a hammer he had brought with him. The screen shattered, plastic casing cracked. He hit it again and again until it was completely destroyed. Then he went to the living room. He pulled out a can of spray paint from his jacket and wrote on my walls in large black letters, "Drop it and you'll regret this." By the time I was 5 minutes from my house, police sirens were audible on the security feed. Derek heard them too. He panicked, tried to run toward the back door, but 2 officers entered through the front door I had left unlocked for them remotely through my smart lock system. They caught Derek in my living room, spray paint can still in his hand, black paint on his fingers. I arrived just as they were putting him in handcuffs. I parked on the street, got out of my car, and walked toward my house. Derek saw me. His face was red, twisted with anger. "This is your fault," he yelled. "You could have just let it go. You could have just helped the family." One of the officers told him to be quiet. They read him his rights and put him in the back of the patrol car. An officer approached me, a woman in her 40s, with a calm, professional demeanor. "Mr. Torres? I'm Officer Daniels. We need to get your statement." I gave them my statement, showed them the security footage on my phone, explained the history of the harassment. They took photos of the damage inside my house, the destroyed laptop, the spray-painted threats on the walls. Derek was arrested and charged with breaking and entering, burglary, vandalism, and destruction of property. Because he had broken a window to enter and had brought tools with him, the charges were more serious. The arrest report became public record. By that evening, the news had spread through the family. Beth called me, shocked. "Raul, is it true? Did Derek really break into your house?" "Yes. The police arrested him. I have it all on video. Oh my God. Your parents must be losing their minds. They were. Within an hour of Derek's arrest, my father called me. I almost did not answer, but I decided I wanted to hear what he had to say. Raul. His voice was strained, desperate. Please, don't press charges against Derek. He made a terrible mistake. He's your brother. Don't ruin his life over this. I felt surprisingly calm. He broke into my house. He destroyed my property. He threatened me. I'm pressing charges for everything. Raul, please. We can work this out as a family. Your mother is beside herself. This will kill her. You stopped being my family when you chose to support the people who destroyed my marriage. You said you don't take sides, but you took a side. You took theirs. Now I'm taking mine. I hung up. My mother called next. She was crying, almost hysterical. Raul, please. Please don't do this. Derek needs help, not jail. He's struggling. We'll get him counseling. We'll make him apologize. Just drop the charges. No. Raul, I'm begging you. I'm your mother. Then act like it. For once, hold Derek accountable for his actions instead of making excuses for him. I hung up on her too. Gary called me later that evening. Raul, I heard about what happened. This changes everything. With Derek's arrest, your parents' lawsuit is dead in the water. No judge will side with them now. I'll file a motion to dismiss, with prejudice, first thing tomorrow. What about the counter lawsuit? We can still file it, but I think we'll get a settlement now. They know they've lost. The question is, how much they're willing to pay to make this go away quietly. Over the next few days, I had my house repaired. The window replaced, the walls repainted, the laptop replaced with insurance money. I upgraded my security system, added more cameras, made sure every entry point was monitored. Derek was released on bail after 2 days in jail. My parents paid the bail, which was set at $10,000. He had a court date scheduled for 6 weeks later. 3 days after Derek's arrest, my father called again. This time, his tone was different. Defeated. Raul, we're dropping the lawsuit. Our attorney advised us to withdraw it. We'll be filing the paperwork this week. Good. We'd like to settle the other issues too. What do you want? I want you to pay my legal fees. All of them. I want a written agreement that you and Derek will have no contact with me unless I initiate it. And I want an apology, in writing, acknowledging what you did wrong. There was a long silence. We'll agree to the legal fees and the no-contact agreement, but we won't apologize. We were trying to keep the family together. Then there's no settlement. See you in court. I hung up. 2 days later, Gary received an email from their attorney. They agreed to all 3 terms. They would pay $8,000 to cover my legal fees. They would sign a no-contact agreement, and they would provide a written apology. The apology, when it arrived, was brief and half-hearted, but it was in writing. We acknowledge that our actions caused Raul distress. We regret the breakdown of our family relationship. It was not the apology I deserved, but it was something. Derek's court date arrived 6 weeks later. Gary advised me to be present, to give a victim impact statement if the opportunity arose. I took the day off work and went to the courthouse. The courtroom was small, wood-paneled, formal. My parents sat on one side with Derek and his attorney. I sat on the other side with Gary. We did not make eye contact. Derek's attorney tried to negotiate a plea deal. He argued that Derek was going through a difficult time, that he had acted out of emotional distress, that he had no prior criminal record. He asked for probation and community service, no jail time. The prosecutor, a sharp woman in her 30s, was not sympathetic. She presented the evidence. The security footage showing Derek breaking the window, entering my house, destroying my property, spray painting threats. She emphasized that this was not a crime of passion but premeditated. He had brought tools with him. The judge, an older man with gray hair and a stern expression, listened carefully. Then he asked if I wanted to make a statement. I stood up. my hands shaking slightly. Your Honor, this was not an isolated incident. My brother has been part of a months-long campaign to harass and sabotage me. He had an affair with my wife, contributed to the destruction of my marriage, and then worked with my parents to try to force me into financial ruin. Breaking into my house was just the culmination of his efforts to intimidate and harm me. I asked that he be held fully accountable for his actions. The judge nodded. Derek's attorney objected, tried to argue that the other issues were not relevant to this case, but the judge overruled him. In the end, Derek pleaded guilty to reduced charges to avoid a trial. He was sentenced to 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service, mandatory anger management counseling, and ordered to pay me $12,000 in restitution for the damage to my property and emotional distress. $12,000. It would not solve all my financial problems, but it would give me breathing room. It would let me rebuild my savings, get ahead on my mortgage payments, stabilize my life. Derek looked at me as they led him out of the courtroom. His expression was pure hatred, but I felt nothing. He had made his choices. Now he was facing the consequences. After the hearing, Gary and I stood outside the courthouse. Raul, the criminal case is over. The civil settlement with your parents is done. You're free. You won. I nodded slowly. Thank you, Gary. For everything. What will you do now? Move forward. That's all I can do. Over the next few weeks, the extended family learned the full truth. Beth made sure of it. She talked to cousins, aunts, uncles, explained what really happened. She showed them the timeline, the evidence, the court documents. Some family members were horrified. They reached out to me with apologies, said they had been misled by my parents. Others doubled down, stood by my parents, insisted I was still in the wrong for pressing charges against Derek. Those relationships were lost, and I accepted it. Laura kept her word. She moved to another state to live with her sister. I never heard from her again. Sometimes I wondered if she found peace, if she ever forgave herself. I hoped she did, despite everything. Derek stayed out of jail, but barely. He violated his probation twice, missed community service hours, failed to attend counseling sessions. The court extended his probation another year and threatened jail time if he violated again. My parents and I maintained the no-contact agreement. I did not call them. They did not call me. We existed in separate worlds now, connected only by biology and a shared last name. The restitution money from Derek came in installments, $1,000 a month for 12 months. With that extra income, I was able to catch up on all my bills, rebuild my emergency savings, and even start putting money toward paying down my mortgage principal. My supervisor, Tom, noticed the change in me. I was more focused, more present, less stressed. 3 months after the court case, he called me into his office. Raul, I want to talk to you about a promotion. I looked at him, surprised. A promotion? You've been with us for 8 years. You're a strong engineer, reliable, skilled. We have a senior engineer position opening up. It comes with more responsibility, but also a significant raise. 15% increase in salary. Are you interested? 15% of $78,000 was almost $12,000 more a year. That would bring my salary to just over $85,000. Yes, I said immediately. I'm very interested. Good. I'll submit your name. I think you're the right fit. 2 weeks later, I got the promotion. My salary increased from $78,000 to $85,200 annually. It was not life-changing money, but it was enough. Enough to breathe. Enough to stop living paycheck to paycheck. Enough to start imagining a future that was not just survival. 6 months after Derek's arrest, I stood in my living room, the same room where he had spray-painted threats on my walls. The walls were freshly painted now, a soft gray that made the space feel calm. New furniture. Nothing from my marriage to Laura. A fresh start. I looked around my house, the one I had fought so hard to keep, and felt something I had not felt in over a year. Peace. The journey had been brutal. I had lost my marriage, my brother, my parents, half my extended family. I had been pushed to the edge financially, emotionally, professionally. There were days I thought I would not make it, days I considered just giving up, selling the house, walking away from everything. But I did not. I fought back. I stood my ground, and I won. The most painful lesson I learned was about family. I grew up believing family was everything, that blood was thicker than water, that you always stood by your relatives no matter what. My parents preached that message my entire childhood. But what I learned was that family is not just about shared DNA. Family is about loyalty, respect, and love. Real love, not the conditional kind that comes with strings attached and expectations of silence in the face of wrongdoing. My parents' version of not taking sides was actually taking a side. They chose convenience over justice. They chose to enable bad behavior because it was easier than holding people accountable. They wanted me to swallow my pain, accept betrayal, and play happy family so they did not have to face the uncomfortable truth that they had raised one son who worked hard and one son who destroyed lives without remorse. When they asked me to help them financially while they housed and supported Derek and Laura, they revealed their true values. They wanted my money, but not my well-being. They wanted my compliance, but not my peace. They wanted me to fund their retirement, while they funded the people who ruined my marriage. I learned that sometimes the hardest thing you will ever do is walk away from people you love when they refuse to see your worth. It goes against every instinct, every childhood lesson about loyalty and forgiveness. But self-respect is not negotiable. Your peace is not negotiable. Your dignity is not negotiable. I learned that forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. I can forgive my parents for their choices without having a relationship with them. I can forgive Laura for the affair without letting her back into my life. I can forgive Derek for his cruelty without subjecting myself to more of it. Forgiveness is about releasing the anger so it does not poison me. It is not about giving people permission to hurt me again. I learned that standing up for yourself is not selfish. When I refused to give my parents money, when I pressed charges against Derek, when I fought the lawsuit, some people called me cruel and unforgiving. They said I was choosing pride over family. But it was not pride. It was survival. It was refusing to be a victim. It was saying no to people who wanted to use me and discard me. The extended family members who truly cared about me, like Beth, stood by me even when it was uncomfortable. They asked questions, sought the truth, and made their own judgments. Those are the relationships I kept. Those are the people who showed me what real family looks like. I rebuilt my life on my own terms. I made new friends, people who knew my story and respected my boundaries. I focused on my career, got the promotion, found satisfaction in work that challenged me. I took care of my house, made it a home that reflected who I was becoming, not who I had been. I even started dating again, cautiously. I met someone, a woman named Rachel, who worked as a teacher. She was kind, patient, and understood that I had been through trauma. We took things slowly. I was not ready to rush into anything, and she respected that. Maybe it would lead somewhere, maybe it would not. Either way, I was learning to trust again. The mortgage that once felt like a crushing weight now felt like an investment in my future. Every payment I made was a statement. I am here. I survived. I am building something that no one can take from me. I never went back to Sunday dinner. My parents never asked me to come again after the court case. The tradition that once defined our family was over, and I was okay with that. I created my own traditions, dinners with friends, game nights, quiet evenings alone that felt more peaceful than any forced family gathering ever had. Sometimes I wondered if my parents regretted their choices. If they lay awake at night thinking about how they lost one son while trying to save the other. If they understood that their refusal to take sides was the most damaging side they could have taken. I did not know. And I realized I did not need to know. Their regret or lack of it was not my responsibility. I had spent too much energy trying to understand their thinking, trying to justify their actions, trying to find a way to make it make sense. But some things do not make sense. Some people will choose wrong over and over, and you cannot fix them. What I could do was choose differently. I could choose to value honesty over harmony. I could choose to protect my peace over preserving relationships that harmed me. I could choose to build a life based on respect and integrity, even if it meant building it alone at first. A year after Derek's arrest, I received a letter in the mail. It was from my grandmother, the one who had called me crying, asking me to make peace with my parents. The envelope was thin, handwritten in her shaky cursive. I opened it carefully. Dear Raul, I am writing this from the nursing home. My health is not good, and I wanted to reach you before it is too late. Your cousin Beth told me the full story of what happened. She showed me the court documents and explained everything. I am so sorry I asked you to make peace when I did not know the truth. I am sorry I believed the version of events your parents told me. You were protecting yourself, and I made you feel guilty for it. You are a good man, Raul. You always have been. Your grandfather would be proud of the man you have become. Strong, principled, willing to stand alone when standing with others would have destroyed you. I love you. I hope you know that. I hope you can forgive an old woman for not seeing clearly. Your grandmother. I sat with the letter for a long time, tears streaming down my face. It was not my parents' apology, but it mattered. It mattered that someone from that generation, someone I loved, saw the truth and acknowledged it. I wrote her back that same day, told her I loved her too, that there was nothing to forgive, that I understood. She passed away 3 months later. I went to the funeral. My parents were there, but we did not speak. We existed in the same space, strangers bound by grief, and that was enough. Life moved forward. Seasons changed. I paid down my mortgage, saved money, took a vacation for the first time in years. I went to the mountains, hiked trails, sat by lakes, and breathed air that tasted like freedom. I learned that winning does not always look like triumph. Sometimes it looks like survival. Sometimes it looks like quiet mornings in a house you fought to keep. Sometimes it looks like the absence of chaos, the presence of peace, the simple satisfaction of knowing you chose yourself when everyone else wanted you to choose them. I learned that you cannot control how people react to your boundaries. You can only control whether you enforce them. When I told my family no, they punished me for it. They tried to destroy me for it. But I held firm, and eventually, the storm passed. I learned that the people who truly love you will not ask you to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. They will not demand your suffering as proof of your loyalty. They will not weaponize family against you when you refuse to comply. And most importantly, I learned that I was stronger than I thought. I survived betrayal, divorce, financial sabotage, family rejection, and legal battles. I stood alone when it felt like the entire world was against me. And I came out the other side intact, maybe even better than before. My house stands as a testament to that strength. Every room holds a memory of the fight, but also a memory of the victory. The walls that were once spray-painted with threats are now painted with colors I chose. The doors that were broken into now have locks only I control. The space that was invaded is now a sanctuary. I am not bitter. Bitterness would mean they still had power over me. Instead, I am grateful. Grateful for the clarity that came from crisis. Grateful for the people like Beth and Gary who stood with me. Grateful for the strength I discovered in myself when I had no choice but to find it. My parents made their choice. They said they did not take sides, but they took a side every single day they supported Derek and Laura. And when the mortgage came due, when I needed them to stand with me the way I had stood alone, they learned the truth. Neutrality in the face of injustice is not neutrality at all. It is complicity. They took a side real quick after that. But by then, I had already chosen mine, and I never looked back. If you are facing a situation where family expects you to sacrifice your peace for their comfort, I want you to know something. You are not wrong for choosing yourself. You are not selfish for setting boundaries. You are not cruel for walking away from people who refuse to see your value. Family is supposed to be a source of strength, not a wound that never heals. And if the people who share your blood cannot be that for you, You have every right to find family elsewhere, in friends who choose you, in partners who respect you, in communities that celebrate you. Your story might not look like mine. Your betrayals might be different. Your battles might be fought on different ground. But the principle remains the same. You deserve to be valued. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to be protected, even if you have to be the one to protect yourself. Stand your ground. Enforce your boundaries. Choose your peace. And know that on the other side of the hardest decision you will ever make is a life that belongs to you, built by you, for you. That life is worth fighting for. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and self-respect? Have you ever walked away from people you loved because staying would have destroyed you? What did you learn from that experience? Share your story in the comments below. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story resonated with you, if it gave you strength or clarity or hope, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about real people facing real challenges and finding real solutions. And share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who is struggling with family pressure or guilt. Someone who needs permission to choose themselves. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope you find the courage to protect your peace, the strength to enforce your boundaries, and the wisdom to know that you are worth fighting for. Take care of yourself. You matter more than you know.